With the second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State.
But you know, as they say, hail to the Redskins. Let's roll, man. Let's go.
King of the North, tripling up. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Thank you for tripling up, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North. Writes, I don't like Warriors because I want a name that is uniquely ours. Redwolves or Redtails is fine. People talk about trolling Redtails, but we've dealt with Deadskins and Foreskins for years. You're right about that. And I've told people that as much as well. Like, look, don't worry about getting teased. You know, don't worry about being made fun of. We've dealt with that in the past, and I didn't even bring up foreskin. I just brought up deadskins. Like we've dealt with this before. Like, that's not a big deal. I don't go into this situation thinking about, like I told you this yesterday. I don't go into this thinking about, oh man, what about Redwolves? We can name the stadium, nickname it the Den, and the defense can be the Wolfpack. Like, I'm not thinking about that. That's ancillary stuff. I could care less about that. I want that stuff to happen organically. If you're thinking about that now, you're way ahead of the game, but probably prematurely ahead of the game. Like, think of a name that just encapsulates everything about this team, this area. You want it to be unique. And then let the nickname for the stadium, let the nickname for the defense happen organically. Don't force it. So I, like you, and I've stated this, it's the one thing that I've laid claim to this entire time when talking about the name. I don't want Warriors because it's already being used. It's already got an established history and a legacy. Let those teams have that. All right? Forge your own path and your own legacy. It's the same thing Joe Theismann tried to get through to Dwayne Haskins. It didn't resonate, all right? But get your own name. Make your own name, all right? So if I'm the Redskins, and I know a lot of you, let's kind of switch gears for a second and talk name since we're on the subject matter. I know you guys have heard of Martin McCauley, who is a entrepreneur who has bought up a bunch of names, and he's got over 40 names that he's got registered that, you know, could make it a little tough on the Redskins. And he had the foresight. I can't knock his hustle. He had the foresight to start collecting names back in 2014 when he felt like the name change could be imminent. I don't know if he felt like this was going to pay off. You know, at some point it looked like, you know, the name change wasn't going to happen. And he probably thought to himself, well, you know, if nothing happens, it's cool. I got these names. But if something were to happen, I'm in business. Now he's in business. And look, you know, the NFL takes a we don't conduct business with terrorists type of approach when dealing with people like this. So I don't see the NFL, which is why they haven't responded to any of his messages on socials where he's pretty much went out and said, look, I'll give you some of these names for free. You know, just respond to me, communicate with me. They haven't responded to one of his messages. And now and I don't think he was ever going to do anything for free. I think he was just trying to gain a little bit of support from the public because, you know, if the public found out he was the reason the Redskins couldn't get the Redwolves name, they'd turn on him in a heartbeat. I mean, they would go after this guy with such vitriol and disdain. I mean, they'd come after him like nobody's business. So I think he was trying to save face when he said, hey, I was willing to give up some names, but, you know, now that they haven't responded to me, I've given them 10 days and I haven't heard anything. Now, you know, I'm willing to listen if they want to talk about some kind of compensation. Of course you are. That was always the move. You didn't do this out of the kindness of your heart. You didn't do this to stop anybody else from potentially hoarding names and stopping the Redskins from being able to get names. You didn't do this to hold on to it until the Redskins were ready, and then when they were ready, you would give it to them. You did this for financial benefit and gain. That's what this is all about. So that's another hurdle and obstacle that the Redskins will have to clear before anything is done. And I also want you guys to understand that getting a name isn't something that happens overnight. Like some of you want this rebrand because this process has happened so fast and it feels like it's happened overnight. I don't think the Redskins are going to change their name right now. Like, first of all, the statement that the team put out was trash, and it didn't denounce the name right away. It didn't put the name to rest. The name isn't officially dead. They're like, hey, when we come up with a new name, then the Redskins name will be finally taken out back and have 2 put in its dome. But for now, we're just going to roll with that. But we're just telling you that it's going away here shortly. But we don't know when that's going to be. So I don't think and nor do they need to rush this. You know, I don't like the whole football club idea, like as a permanent name, FC. That's soccer stuff. You keep that shit overseas. Don't bring that shit over here. All right. Much like I said with the Falcons uniforms, like don't bring that Arena League shit in here. Don't bring that England and France and don't bring that across the pond shit here. This isn't soccer. All right. This is the real football. So I don't want an FC. Keep that shit over there where it belongs. But I take it a step further. I don't think they need to rush though. And if it's the Washington FC for a year, okay, I can deal with that. There's already Nike gear out there that says Washington football team. I could care less about any of that stuff. They don't need to rush this though. They need to make a smart, calculated decision. They need to figure out how they want to market this, how they want to spin it. They need to figure out how the color scheme is going to go, if they're going to keep it burgundy and gold. Speaking of color schemes, I told you guys that Redwolves was growing on me. I'm not on board with Redwolves. All right, so I haven't put my John Hancock underneath Redwolves. So don't think that that's what I'm doing. I'm not endorsing this. However, you have to admit some of the imagery, some of the things that I've seen, and I've seen videos, and I've seen artwork, and I've seen a lot of breathtaking stuff when it comes to Redwolves and this organization and all of the endless possibilities for it. But there have been a couple of things that have caught my eye, and I want to take a look at them quickly. Let's first start with this. You can't look at that and tell me that that's not crispy. All right, that's not cold-blooded. All right, that's ice cold right there. Cold-blooded. That's as cold can get, man. All right. I mean, that right there is as fresh as you could get. And any other way you can describe dope, that's what that is. And so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, sign me up for that. That's dope. You keep the R, and speaking of keeping the R, you could go here when you start looking at mock-ups. And, this was a Washington Sports question that they posed to some fans and people that are marketeers that are in the know. People that would look at these logos and say which one would be the easiest to market. 2 of those stand out. I can't speak for you guys out there, but 2 of these stand out to me when you're talking Redwolves, if you wanted to go that direction. Really, the one that I like the most is in the top left-hand corner, number 1. And that picture that you saw of Terry McLaurin, and I'll go back to it briefly, this is done by the same person or same group that did those 2 logos, the ones on the left, top left, number 1 and number 4, right underneath it. All done by DC Sports XP. And he's doing a phenomenal job, or she or they are doing a phenomenal job. That one in the top left-hand corner, though, number 1, to me is the best of those logos. It's clean. It's efficient. It's effective. It encapsulates this area. And I love the wolf and how it creates the W. It's just a simple, clean look. If you want to go with the traditional look, you keep the R that we've had for years, and then you just throw a little bit of a wolf at the top. That's what you saw on the Terry McLaurin helmet. So if we were to go back there, you look at his helmet, that's the logo that's on that helmet. That's pretty dope, you know? So when you start looking at things like that, you get really excited about what the future could potentially be for this organization if they were to go in that direction and go with, you know, a color scheme that looks something like that. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. You know, like I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you're one of these people that's banging the table for Redwolves or Red Tails or anything of the sort, I wouldn't get my hopes up. You know, I don't think that they're listening to the cries of the fan base. I don't think they're listening to this groundswell that has all of a sudden manifested itself for the name Redwolves. I just don't think that's what they're doing. So we'll see. I could be wrong, but I told you this already. I honestly don't really care what the name is. I just don't want it to be Warriors. You know, anything short of that, you know, I wouldn't have a Red Tails problem, even though I don't necessarily love Red Tails. Again, I love what it means, and I love the meaning behind it and the implications of what it would be and what it would mean for this team. You know, you go from one end of the spectrum to the other with that. And I think a lot of people would like to see that take place. But I'm not in love with the logos that I've seen with the Red Tails. The name does seem a little flaccid to me. Seems a little soft. You know, Red Tails does. I want something that's a little bit more tough and rugged and rough around the edges. I wouldn't mind Rebels or anything like that. Renegades. I don't think I would have a problem with any of those, you know. But we'll see what they decide to do. I told you I would prefer something starting with an R. And as a matter of fact, I do want to take a look at one more thing here as we take one more look at this dope jersey sported by our guy, Terry McLaurin. But I do want to bring up the poll that I issued to you guys about a good week and a half to 2 weeks ago. And it's over 600 votes now at the time of this screen capture. It was at 600 votes exactly. So that's a nice sample size from you guys. Great turnout there. And I appreciate every single one of you who voted. And there's still plenty of time to vote if you would like to. But I simply asked, which name would you be most comfortable with the Redskins changing the name to? And I gave you 5 options: Warriors, Renegades, Rebels, anything beginning with Red. And then the last option was Other. Now, I read all of your comments, and someone wrote down in the comment section, and actually multiple people wrote down that, you know, the Other was selected because they want Redskins. Well, that wasn't the gist of that option nor the question. The question asks you, what would you be comfortable with the Redskins changing their name to? Obviously, you're not going to change it from Redskins to Redskins, so why would you choose Other if you just wanted the name to remain the same? I get that concept, but that's not the spirit of this poll. So Other was probably somewhat skewed by people who just wanted the name to stay Redskins, which wasn't the spirit of this poll. So, you know, I'll take that with a grain of salt. I was somewhat shocked because I thought anything beginning with Red was going to be your clear-cut, definitive leader in the clubhouse. Whether it was Red Tails or Red Hogs or Red Wolves or Red Hawks. I've heard so many red different iterations that I just thought anything with Red was going to be your runaway winner here. And I was wrong. And I was shocked to see Warriors have the same amount of percentages as anything beginning with Red. I actually thought Warriors would be a lot less in favor than anything beginning with Red. And so there are a lot more of you out there that aren't opposed to the nickname Warriors. And, you know, if that's what direction they decide to go in, whatever. You know, I don't want it to be Warriors, but it's not something that I'm willing to get all bent out of shape about, you know. So I'd actually prefer Renegades or Rebels over Warriors. And neither one of those did all that well. I was actually surprised that Renegades did as well as it did. But I think the biggest shock and takeaway from this one was the fact that not as many people went with red, something beginning with red. And maybe if I would have taken away the other option, we would have seen a spike in anything beginning with red. But that's nor here nor there. Thank you to everyone who voted in the poll. And so, as my man King of the North said very eloquently, any name is going to be fine. And you shouldn't allow the fact that we may be made fun of with a specific name to be the reason you don't want to go with it, because we've been made fun of with our name for years. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. Anyhow, thank you for the super chat and tripling up. King of the North.
Louie T.